Hi, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. This is part 2 of the Let's Make 8 card series using the Simon Says Stamp Limited Edition Mother's Day card kit from 2018. And if you missed part 1, be sure to head back to my channel to check it out because I show what came in this kit for me and also the first 4 cards. So this is card number 5, and I have grabbed the heart die cut from the Die Cuts with a View paper lace matte stack. And I'm going to file the edges where it was connected just because I don't want those kind of sticking out there. And I have a scrap of Kansan XL watercolor paper, and I'm going to do some ink smushing with some Tattered Rose Distress Oxide ink. So what I do, if you've been to my channel before at all, you've seen me do this many times. So I just put that ink down on my craft mat, spritz it with some water, and I'll put my paper right into it. And then I'll heat it up so that it sets that a little bit, and then I'll just keep smushing. And I think I do this about 3 times. And it's neat. You always get a different look every time you do it, and you can add different colors of ink to it. It ends up always different and neat. So now I have the Script Mom wafer die from Simon Says Stamp, and I am using the shadow part of that die on the ink smushed panel, and I'm running it through my Sizzix Sidekick. And then I'm going to run the script through on a piece of just some scrap watercolor paper that I have. On the last video I used my Xyron sticker maker with that, but this time I'm going to attach my die cut using some liquid glue. It's just another way to do it, and it's easy enough. I'm just dotting it on there. And then once I'm done putting a little bit of glue, I don't want too much because it'll squish out the sides, I'm going to grab that with my reverse tweezers, and I will place it down on the shadow where I want it. And then I'll use that same glue, which is the Tombow Mono Multi adhesive, on that heart die cut. And I'm not putting it everywhere. I'm just putting it on the big parts because I don't want it to stick up too much. If it, those little edges could get caught on whether you're putting it in your envelope or whatnot. And so I'm just gluing it down on those pieces. And then I try to grab it with the reverse tweezers, but that's not working, so I just use my fingers. And then I'll stick it down. And I'm going to grab the leaf flourish stickers that come in the kit. Thickers, not stickers, even though they are stickers. And I'm going to place those around where I want the mom sentiment. So I'll stick some of those down up there, and then I'll grab another piece. These stickers are so pretty. And then I'll use that same liquid glue, and I'll adhere the mom sentiment down as well. And now I've decided to line the bottom of my card with those adorable flourish heart thickers. And so I can kind of see my grid map through my craft mat a little bit. And I'm not doing the greatest job of adhering these down. And I'm not sticking them down completely because then they will be stuck. So I kind of, with a little bit of pressure, I'm putting them down. And I keep sticking that one in the same spot. But I eventually figure it out. Clearly, I have a problem lining them up. But I do have the Tim Holtz glass media mat on order. And I'm not sure when that'll come, but it's been on, I think they've had that on reserve for a while. So I'll grab a scrap of white cardstock and stamp a sentiment on it with some Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. And it didn't work out the first time. So just flip it over and stamp it again. I'm going to trim that down, kind of see where I want it. And I'm going to cut that side because I'm not liking how that's sitting under there. I'm going to cut that side at an angle. You'll see what I mean here. Sorry, it's off camera. And when I have it the way I want it, I will attach it down with a tape runner. And then I'm going to cut off the excess. And now I'm going to stamp the sentiment on the inside as well with that same Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. Say that 10 times fast. And that's going to finish off card number 5. For card number 7, I grabbed the same paper pack, the paper lace matte stack, and I grabbed the gold die cut from it. And I'm going to begin poking out all those negative pieces, which takes some time, but I know they have tools out there that help in this process. All I have is my paper piercer, and it works pretty well. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to take one of the pieces of the pattern paper and I'm going to attach it at an angle. So there's no measuring, I'm just kind of seeing where I want it, and I'm going to put tape on the back so that I don't want to waste an inch of that beautiful paper. It's too pretty. So once I have it attached where I want it, I will grab my scissors and I will trim off the excess. Because like I said, don't want to waste it. It's way too pretty. And so once I'm done with that, I'm going to trim some more pattern paper. I'm just going to trim that long strip there. And I'm going to cut a flag end into one of the edges, which is really simply just snip into the middle, the very middle, and then you have the edges meet. And that ended up being a little bit too long, so I just trimmed those flags down, make them a little bit more wide. I'm just trying to figure out placement, and I'm going to grab the mother sentiment from the stamp set in this kit, and that is the Mother's Clematis stamp set. It's a big, beautiful stamp set. It's a 6x8. So I'm using the same Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink to put the sentiment down, and I'll use my glue, my liquid glue, to glue the gold die cut down. And I don't put the glue all the way to the edges because I'm going to trim off the excess, but I just set that down, and I'll grab my tape runner to tape down my sentiment strip. This is a very simple card. Not a lot to it. Let the elements speak for themselves, basically. And I'll trim off the excess once again. I'm going to grab those gorgeous Peaches and Cream Sequins mix from Simon Says Stamp. And I will start placing them out all over the card. And I do it pretty liberally. I'm pretty generous with where I put them all. And I'm just going to stick those down with my Crystal Katana tool and some liquid glue. And that will finish off card number 6. Now on to card number 7. I took my cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide ink and I rubbed it directly onto a scrap of Kansan XL watercolor paper. And then I heat set that, and once it was basically dry, I spritzed some clean clear water on it, and then I wiped that up, and then I heat set it again just to make sure it was good and dry, and I ran it through my die cutting machine with the Simon Says Stamp Mom Script die. And I'm attaching those the same way I did before with some liquid glue, and I'm going to put a stamp block on that once I've gotten that adhered, just to make sure that it just stays put. Now I have a piece of pattern paper that I've trimmed down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and I'm trimming a piece of the ribbon from the Carousel collection from crepe paper down so I can wrap it around a little bit. It matches really well with that pistachio ink. And I'm going to use some Simon Says Stamp tacky glue to adhere it. Now I have a love-hate relationship with that tacky glue. Now I'm kind of loving it. It wasn't working for me before because the tip just kept getting glued shut basically. So I cleared it, and then now I just store it upside down and it works out perfectly. So I'm going to use my reverse tweezers to make sure that well, first of all, I tried to use some washi tape and that just wasn't cutting it. So I got the one side to adhere pretty well, and now I'm just going to use my reverse tweezers to make sure that that stays put. And I'm kind of just seeing placement right now. And I will grab one of those hearts off of there and I'll adhere that down, and then I kind of push this off to the side so that I can stamp my sentiment. And to stamp my sentiment, I'm using a small scrap. You can't see it because clearly I'm off screen, but I'm using a small scrap of paper, and I've stamped that sentiment with some Versamark ink, and I've coated it with some Simon Says Stamp fine gold embossing powder. And I heat that and I trimmed it down. And now I'm kind of just seeing where I want everything. And this is where I'll assemble the card. So once I figured that out, I pull off that release paper on the foam tape to adhere the panel. And I use that liquid glue to adhere the mom script. And then I'll also use that same liquid glue to put down my little sentiment strip. And those sequins are just so pretty that I'm going to grab those next. I'm going to place them around, scatter them around. I love how they come in 3 different colors. And once I'm happy with the placement of where those are going to be, I'll grab my crystal katana and the liquid glue and I'll adhere those down again. And to do the inside, I'm going to stamp the sentiment again in Versamark ink, and I'm going to use the gold embossing powder over the top of it because I wanted everything to have cohesion. But I'm trying to be really careful because I know those sequins weren't completely cleared down. So that completes card number 7. For card number 8, I grab some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock and I temporarily adhere that to the inside of my stamp platform. I am going to make a shaker card. And so I've got to make the outside panel. And I'm going to use that big, beautiful 6x6 stamp from Simon Says Stamp called Flower Explosion. I'm kind of in love with that stamp. It's so pretty. And I'm inking that up with some Gathered Twigs Distress Oxide inks. And then I'm going to stamp that down. Basically, I'm going to do stamp CPR. That's the benefit to the stamp platform. If you've seen any of my videos before or even seen the stamp platform before, if you don't get it stamped right the first time, you can take a look and you can just stamp it right back down again. See, there's parts I missed. So I love it. It's great. So I'll take that out of there and then I'm going to coat that with some clear embossing powder since the Distress Oxide inks stay wet for a little bit. I'm going to get that all coated. And then I'm going to heat that with my heat tool, and off screen I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine with a circle die, and that's going to give me the window to my shaker. I decided not to use the Neenah Desert Storm card base. I ended up using the ivory card base. And for this shaker card, like most shaker cards, you need some sort of acetate for your clear window. And so I've cut some down and I've trimmed it down and adhered it with some liquid glue. And next I'm going to grab my foam tape and I've doubled that up and I'm going to completely cover the outside of my circle. So here's a tip. To get it to curve like it did there, you're going to take the release paper off of both sides. That makes it easier to manipulate. So I've clustered a bunch of the peaches and cream sequins in the middle and I place my panel over the top and I press firmly to make sure that the sequins don't slip out when I shake it. I have some Tattered Rose Distress Oxide ink and I'm directly putting that on a piece of ivory cardstock. I heat set that and I run it through my die cutting machine. And to make sure that none of that ink, the Tattered Rose, transfers to my cutting plate, I placed some thin deli paper over it before running it through. I'm just using some liquid glue and I'm going to adhere that down to the shadow like I did before in the other two. And I'm going to see where I want to place that once it's all attached down. I'm going to grab those Flourish Thickers one more time and I'm going to put those all around the circle just to kind of frame it up there. There are so many thickers left over, I could probably make a bunch more cards. And of course with the stamp, you can just keep going. And I'm going to adhere Mom down with some foam tape. And then I'm going to grab those sequins one more time. So like I said, this was a part 2 of a 2-part series. So if you've missed part 1 and you liked this, you should head on back to my channel and check it out. Why not subscribe while you're there? You don't want to miss anything. I have the new kit, the new May 2018 kit just came in the mail today, so I'll be working on those cards. So after adhering those sequins, I grabbed my metallic bright gold Nuvo drops, and I'm putting those in the center of the sequins, and I'm also just kind of placing them all around as well. I probably went a little overboard. It's possible. You can go too far. I may have. But I don't know. I ended up really liking the way this card turned out. And once I'm done there, that's going to end up finishing off card number 8. So let's take a look at the last 4 cards. There's card number 5, card number 6, card number 7, and card number 8. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for stopping by.